One Sunday, Tom told his brother Dan that he was going hiking with his friend Chris. The next Saturday, the police found Tom dead in the forest. Dan said he had been working all week. As for Chris, he was found wandering along the highway. He explained that he had gotten lost in the forest almost immediately after they arrived and just found his way home. One of the guys was lying. Who was it? You have 10 seconds to figure it out. Look at Chris. He's too well shaven for a man who spent a week in the woods. There are 5 girls in the room. Ashley is drawing. Olivia is reading. Maria is playing hide and seek, and Emma is tidying up. What's Sarah doing? You have 10 seconds to find the answer. Sarah is playing hide and seek with Maria, of course. 2 boys are standing at the seashore. One is looking south, and the other is looking north, and still they can see each other. How so? Well, they're facing each other, of course. You knew that one, didn't you? Which number is missing? 234, 23 what? A small hint, it's not 4. You have 10 seconds to do the math. Number 5 is missing. The subsequent number of 234 is 235. A woman invited her friend over for dinner. For dessert, she cut an apple in half and offered her friend one half along with some whipped cream on the side. She then ate her piece of the same apple. The friend died from poisoning, but the host survived despite eating from the same apple. How is that possible? The poison was in the whipped cream. You see a bathtub filled with water. You have a spoon, a cup, and a bucket. Which will you choose to empty the bathtub? You have 10 seconds to choose. Obviously, choose to pull out the plug. 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals 555. You have 10 seconds to add one number and make the equation correct. P.S. You can't cross the equal sign. $545 plus 5 plus 5 equals 555. 2 people are standing near the river. Both of them want to get to the opposite bank, but the boat can only hold one of them. And still, they both manage to get across the river. How? They were on the opposite river banks. A rich man, Mr. Thomas Green, had been kidnapped, and the detective assigned to his case found a note at the crime scene. It read, 1st of January, 4th of October, 5th of March, 3rd of June. The detective guessed that the kidnapper's name was hidden in the note. The suspects were Jack Green, the rich man's son and heir, June Green, the man's wife, and John Jacobson, Mr. Green's employee. The detective deduced the name of the kidnapper in no time. Can you do the same in 10 seconds? 1st of January means the first letter of the word January, J. 4th of October indicates the fourth letter of the word October, O. The 5th of March stands for the fifth letter of the word March, H. 3rd of June is the third letter of the word June, N. So, John Jacobson was the one that kidnapped Mr. Green. Someone entered a dark room. They brushed against something, some glass broke, and someone died. What happened? You have 10 seconds to solve this mystery. An aquarium with a goldfish got smashed. If it's raining at midnight, can you expect that in 72 hours it will be sunny? You have 10 seconds to forecast the weather. Nope, in 72 hours it's going to be night again. A person is sitting, but even if they stand up, you won't be able to occupy their place. Where is this person sitting? 10 seconds to find the answer. The person is sitting on your lap. Hey, don't blame me. What's a security guard doing when a bird is sitting on his head? He's sleeping. They give me a job to do every morning, but when I do it, they still tell me off. Who am I? I'm an alarm clock. And yes, it's a thankless job. How can you put a whole cucumber into a glass bottle without cutting the cucumber or damaging the bottle? You have 10 seconds to find the answer. Place a baby cucumber still on its stem into the bottle. Then let it grow inside. Once a young girl dropped her ring into a cup full of coffee, but the ring remained dry. You have 10 seconds to understand how. There were coffee beans in the cup. Oh, come on now. What do you call the fear of Santa Claus? Claustrophobia. I like that one. The king told his three to place 3 identical kettles with the same amount of water on the fire. The king promised that the husband of the daughter, whose kettle would boil first, would be there. Surprisingly, his youngest daughter's kettle boiled first. Use your 10 seconds to understand why her kettle boiled first. The other daughters kept lifting their kettle's lids to check if the water was already boiling. Oops. A man was found dead in a field of snow. The only evidence that was left was a set of footprints between 2 parallel lines. Who should the police be looking for? You have 10 seconds to find out the truth. A person in a wheelchair. A shoe shiner offers his services to passers-by completely for free, but those who agree to his offer end up paying him of their own free will. How so? The man shines one shoe for free. People don't want to look silly in just one clean shoe and have to pay for the shining of the other one. Ethan spent 3 days in the hospital and was absolutely healthy when he left. Still, he had to be carried out of the hospital. Why? 10 seconds to crack this mystery. Ethan was a newborn baby. A man called his wife from the office and told her he would be home at 8 o'clock. Have any plans for that evening? And still, when he arrived at 2 minutes past 8, his wife was furious. What made her so angry? The woman thought that her husband would come home by 8 p.m., but he arrived at 8:02 a.m. the next morning. In what case will 3 boys, 1 adult man, 4 girls, and a cat remain dry under just one umbrella? They'll be dry if it doesn't rain. A wealthy man lived alone in a small cottage. He was disabled, so he had everything delivered to him. The mailman brought a letter on Thursday and noticed that the front door was ajar. Through the opening, he could see the man's body lying in a pool of dried blood. On the porch, there were 2 bottles of milk, Monday's newspaper, a catalog, some flyers, and unopened mail. When Sherlock Holmes got to the cottage, he told the police the killer was the mailman. How did he know? You have 10 seconds to figure it out. Tuesday and Wednesday's newspapers were missing from the porch. The mailman knew the man didn't need them since he was dead. A man who was standing on the sidewalk dropped a tomato from the height of 6 feet, but it wasn't damaged at all. How so? 10 seconds to unravel this mystery. The man managed to catch the tomato before it hit the ground. Why would he do that? It doesn't say here. I met a stranger yesterday and immediately knew who he was. I hadn't seen this person before, and no one had ever described him to me. He wasn't a celebrity, and he wasn't doing anything unusual. You have 10 seconds to figure out how I knew who it was. The man was the twin brother of my acquaintance. Why hasn't anyone conquered the biggest extinct volcano, even though it's not underwater and can be clearly seen? 10 seconds for you to crack this riddle. This volcano is on Mars. A father tells his teenage daughter, "You arrived very late at 3 a.m. and made us all worry a lot. I don't want this situation to repeat." His daughter, though, replies that it will never repeat. How can she be so sure? 10 seconds to figure it out. The father was talking about the birth of his daughter. Two friends left for a climbing trip, but only one returned. He said that his friend had slipped while climbing and died. However, the police arrested him, saying, "We received a call from your travel agent. We know you murdered your friend." How did they know it was a murder? Try to find the answer in 10 seconds. The man had bought a return ticket for himself and a one-way ticket for his friend. You're sitting on an airplane. There is a horse in front of you and a car behind you. What's happening? You're on a merry-go-round. An art expert paid big money at an auction for a painting that he knew didn't cost anything. He was an honest man and didn't have any criminal intentions. Why did he buy this picture? Hopefully, 10 seconds will be enough for you to guess his motives. Although the painting cost nothing, its frame was a beautiful and expensive piece of art. One chemist found out that a particular reaction lasts for 80 minutes if he's in a suit jacket, but 1 hour and 20 minutes if he's in his lab coat. You have 10 seconds to explain this phenomenon. "80 minutes is the same as 1 hour and 20 minutes. Why can't a police officer open the door in his pajamas? There are no doors in pajamas. Arrest that man. Evan called the police, saying he found his friend Liam murdered by the seashore. He said he let Liam live in his beach house in California for a week to enjoy some summer heat. But when Evan arrived from a month of work in Argentina to join his friend, he found him dead. When the police arrived, they instantly realized the man was lying. You have 10 seconds to guess why. If it was summer in California, it was winter in Argentina. But Evan was sunburnt. It means he was in California, not in Argentina. Once, a man parked his car in front of his house, came in, exited the house with a bucket of water, and poured the water on the sidewalk. 10 seconds for you to guess why he did it. He was planning to wash his car, but while he was away, his car got stolen. A small store in New York is called 7 Bells, but there are 8 bells hanging outside. The owner can easily correct this mistake, but he doesn't. Can you figure out his reasons in 10 seconds? At first, it was just a mistake, but later the owner noticed that people often came to his store to inform him about this error, and it increased his sales. A man and his sister were doing some shopping. Suddenly, the man pointed at a young man and said, "That guy is my nephew." But his sister answered, "Right, but he's not my nephew." How is it possible? You have 10 seconds to crack this mystery. The young man was the woman's son and, accordingly, her brother's nephew. A man wakes up from a 2-day coma after a car accident with a case of amnesia. Suddenly, 2 women arrive at the hospital. One of them says she's his wife, and the other says they have kids. Who's lying? You have to find the answer in just 10 seconds. The woman who says they're married is lying. She isn't wearing a wedding ring. Where can you see rivers but no water? Cities but no buildings? Forests but no trees? You have 10 seconds to crack this mystery. You can see them on a map. One town had a weird law that said all men had to be clean-shaven, but no man was allowed to shave himself. The only person who was licensed to shave them was a 40-year-old hairdresser. But who shaved the hairdresser? There was no need. The hairdresser was a woman. How can you throw a tennis ball in such a way that it'll get back to you? Just throw it up. The son of the professor's father talks to the father of the professor's son, and the professor doesn't take part in this conversation. Can you unravel this family riddle in 10 seconds? The professor is a woman, and the people talking are her brother and her husband. During a fire, a bank was robbed. The security guard told the police that he wanted to save a bag of money, but he had to crouch to tie his boot just in front of the emergency exit. At that moment, the door opened and hit him on the head. When he came to, the money was missing. Why was the security guard arrested? All emergency doors open outwards. We get it 3 times in a lifetime. The first 2 times are free, but we have to pay a lot for the 3rd time. What is it? It's our teeth. After the bank had been robbed, the police found the money in the park among cacti. After the police officers arrested all the suspects, they almost immediately figured out who was the bank robber. Can you do the same in 10 seconds? The criminal had scratches left by cacti all over his body. Hey there! Instead of a riddle marathon, we're going to have a riddle race. It'll boost not only your logical skills, but also your reaction, because you'll have just 5 seconds to guess the correct answer. After you get through this race, you'll see your results, so make sure to remember how many riddles you got right. 1. There are 100 books on a shelf. To count off 10 of them, you'll need 10 seconds. How much time you'll spend on counting off 70 books? "30 seconds. You'll need this time to count off 30 books, and the rest will make 70. 2. You've drawn a long line. How can you make it longer without touching it? Draw another shorter line nearby. In this case, the first one will be longer than the second. 3. I exist until you get to know me. As soon as you learn me, I disappear. What am I? A secret. 4. It exists for millions of years, but it's never older than 1 month. What is it? It's the moon in the sky. 5. Where does tomorrow take place earlier than yesterday? In the dictionary. 6. I have 6 faces and 21 eyes, and still I can't see. What am I? I'm a dice. 7. An empty bus arrived at a bus stop, and 15 people entered. At the next stop, 10 passengers left the bus, and 5 fewer than at the first stop entered. At the third stop, 15 people left the bus. How many people are still inside? Only one person, the driver. 8. A mother promised her son to pay him $60 per hour if he washed his hands for 6 seconds before eating a meal. But when the son did that, and his mother gave him his well-earned money, the boy got upset. Why? Because he received just 10 cents. 9. I connect 2 people even though I touch only one of them. What am I? A wedding ring. 10. I'm lower with a head on than without it. What am I? I'm a pillow. 11. It's always served but never eaten. What is it? It's a tennis ball. 12. This question has just one answer, but everyone answers it differently. What question is it? What's your name? 13. You always answer me, even though I never ask you any questions. What am I? A telephone. 14. We're twins. When I leave, I give birth to my sibling, and when they leave, they give birth to me. What are we? A day and a night. 15. What color is the wind? Blue. Ha! Got you with this one, didn't I? 16. How can you turn 6 into an odd number? Remove the S and it leaves IX. That's number 9 in Roman numerals, and this number is odd. 17. I can be large and I can be small. I can have any shape. But if you have me, you need me, even if you like me very much. What am I? A gift. 18. I have many faces, emotions, and expressions, and I'm usually only a tap away. What am I? An emoji. 19. What will you have if you get 3 blackberries and 4 apples? Too many gadgets for one person. 20. What type of goose is brave enough to fight with snakes? A mongoose. 21. What word is always pronounced wrong no matter whether it's a baby or a professor saying it? That's the word wrong. 22. What water can you eat and chew? Watermelon. 23. I have an eye, but no matter whether it's big or small, I still can't see. What am I? A needle. 24. What table doesn't have legs? The periodic table. 25. I can cycle many hours and never get tired, even at the end of the day. Why's that? Because I'm a clock. 26. What can you find somewhere, there, and everywhere? The word here. 27. What kind of bee won't sting you if you try to catch it? A frisbee. 28. I have keys but no locks. I have space but no room. You can enter but you won't go inside. What am I? A keyboard. 29. There is a word that has 6 letters, but if you take 1 letter away, there will be 12. What word is it? Dozens. 30. Poor people have it, but rich people need it. If you eat it, you won't survive. What is it? Nothing. 31. I only live if there is light, but once the light's shining on me, I disappear. What am I? A shadow. 32. It's not alive, but it grows. It doesn't have lungs, but it needs air. What is it? It's a fire. 33. Why are all the rivers in the world rich? They all have 2 banks. Oh! 34. What kind of tree can you easily carry inside your hand? A palm. 35. Why is the moon like a dollar? Because both the moon and a dollar have 4 quarters. 36. I'm black when you buy me, red when you use me, and gray when it's time to throw me away. What am I? Charcoal. 37. Imagine you're running a marathon, and right before the finish line, you pass by the person who's running the second. What place are you in now? Still the second. You've been faster than the person in second place, but not the first. 38. What is a mysterious object that you can hold in your left hand but never in your right hand? Your right hand. 39. What is a 7-letter word that contains hundreds of letters? A mailbox. 40. Hannah's birthday is on January 15th, but she always celebrates it in the summer. How come? Hannah lives in the southern hemisphere. 41. What's the difference between yesterday and tomorrow? Today. 42. What can be lost but never returned? Life. 43. It has billions of eyes but lives in the dark. It has millions of ears but only 4 lobes. It has no muscles but rules 2 hemispheres. What is it? It's the brain. This human organ has countless auditory and optic nerves, 4 lobes, and 2 hemispheres. 44. A man was driving a black truck with the headlights off. The moon wasn't out. An elderly lady, all dressed in black, was slowly crossing the road. Still, the driver managed to stop in time to let her finish crossing the road. How did he see her? It happened on a bright, sunny day. 45. I can sting without moving. I can poison without touching. I bear the truth and the lies. You can't judge me by my size. What am I? A word. 46. You can still see it even though it weighs nothing. If you put it in a bucket, the bucket will get lighter. What is it? A hole. 47. You measure its life in hours and minutes, and it serves you by expiring. It's quick when it's thin and slow when it's fat. Its biggest enemy is the wind. The longer it lives, the smaller it becomes. What is it? A candle. 48. What kind of dog never bites? A hot dog, although you can bite it. 49. You get lost in the woods in the middle of the winter. Suddenly, you see a cabin. It's dark and cold inside. There is just one candle on the table and a wood-burning stove in the corner. You pull out your matchbox and see only one match left. What should you light first? The match, of course, but be very careful and don't waste your chance. 50. I'm a father and a mother, even though I've never given birth. I'm almost never still, but I never walk. What am I? A tree. Are you still with me? Then congrats, you've done it! Now, time to check your results. If you crack 10 to 15 short riddles, well, it's likely not your day today. Try having a good night's rest and practice a bit more tomorrow. If you have 16 to 30 correct answers, maybe it's time to start working on your reaction. 5 seconds was probably not enough for you to find the correct answer to these short questions. I'm sure that if you had more time to think, you'd have done better. If the number of riddles you've solved correctly is 31 to 41, you've done a good job. These riddles might look childish and simple, but it takes most adults several hours to crack them. And if you have a score of 42 to 50 cracked riddles, you must be a genius with at least a couple of diplomas. Very few people can answer all of these simple at first sight but actually very tricky questions.
Six riddles that only 2% extraordinary thinkers can solve. When we find ourselves in unexpected situations, it's hard to know what to do right off the bat. Do you think you can get yourself out of any challenge possible, no matter how strange it might be? This guy certainly knows what it takes. His name is Charles, and he's quite an extraordinary individual. He's overcome tons of obstacles and pulled through a lot of difficult situations throughout his life. Do you have the same sharp wits as our friend Charles here? Let's see. Riddle number 1. Charles was an exceptionally bright kid, but for some reason, his teachers always assigned him the most impossible tasks in school. Perhaps they wanted to nurture his intellect, or maybe he just wasn't their favorite student. Anyway, here's one of the brainbusters that they gave him. Can you correct this flawed equation without changing the numbers or their position in the equation? You have 15 seconds to do it. Have you already figured out the answer? It's way easier than you think. Just flip the chalkboard upside down and voila! All the numbers add up. Way to think outside the box, right? Outside the board? I don't know. Riddle number 2. As a teen, Charles always loved hiking in the woods by himself. One day on one of these hikes, he accidentally fell down a 100-foot deep well. To get out of this watery trap, he climbed 10 feet every single day. But while he was sleeping at night, he slid back down 6 feet. Charles eventually made it out of that well. The question is, how many days did it take him to pull off such a feat? Time's ticking. It took Charles 24 days to get out of the well. Don't worry, he had a backpack with some food and drinks, so hunger wasn't an issue. He gained 10 feet a day, but by the morning of the next day, he had lost 6. On the morning of the 24th day, he was 96 feet up. With just 4 more feet to climb on day 24, he easily made it out before the sun went down. Ow! My brain! Riddle number 3. When Charles was 20, his friends decided to prank him. They kidnapped him, stripped his clothes off, and left him in a room with no windows, a solid concrete floor, and a locked door. Sheesh, is this a prank or a crime? Anyway, on one of the walls, Charles found a note that said in order to escape, he needed to get the ping pong ball. Okay, cryptic. The problem was that the ping pong ball was lying at the bottom of a 3-foot pipe sticking out of the floor in the middle of the room. His arms couldn't reach the bottom of the pipe, and there were no objects around that he could use either. Yet, our brainy friend still managed to complete the task. How did he do it? You have some time to think things through. Well, that was a tough one, wasn't it? With limited options, Charles cleverly decided to pee into the pipe. That way, the ball would float up enough for him to reach it and grab it. I just hope he washed his hands after that. Riddle number 4. With intelligence like his, Charles became a successful and wealthy man. But there was still something missing in his life, and that something ended up being true love. But he met his soulmate, a woman named Irene, and the lovebirds soon got married. Unfortunately, it turns out that Irene was a conniving gold digger. She decided to try and poison her husband in order to get all his riches. Charles knew about her scheme, so he only ate the same food that she did. One day, she offered him an apple, but he said he'd only eat it if she cut it down the middle and split it with him. So she did, but Charles shortly afterwards dropped to the ground while Irene stood there perfectly healthy. Fortunately, Charles survived, and Irene was arrested and sent to prison for this murderous attempt. So that begs the question, how could she poison her husband when she ate the same exact apple and didn't take any sort of antidote beforehand? Your 15 seconds starts now. Like we said, Charles knew his wife was poison him, so he'd been taking a universal antidote every morning. This poison, though, turned out to be extremely strong, and that's why he just ended up in a deep sleep. And when it comes to Irene, she simply poisoned one side of the knife. So while she was cutting the apple, the poison from the knife ended up on Charles's half and not hers. Now that's a femme fatale. Riddle number 5. Charles made his fortune as a famous chemist and pharmacist. He even created a cure for one of the most fatal diseases out there. His co-workers, Alex, Nicola, Michael, and James, all envied his talent and success, and each one was ready to kill him in order to steal the formula for this revolutionary cure. Poor guy, everyone wants to waste him. One evening, as Charles was finishing up some work in the lab, one of his colleagues walked in and stabbed him in the stomach. Charles recognized the person and knew he had to leave a hint for the police in case he didn't survive. So he quickly grabbed a piece of paper and wrote down the numbers 28, 27, 57. Shortly afterwards, he passed out from blood loss and probably would have died if one of the security guards had not found him and called an ambulance. Charles managed to survive, but as fate would have it, he had hit his head pretty hard on the floor when he fell unconscious. The blow put Charles in a coma, so the police only had his note to help them find out who had tried to kill him. Obviously, the suspects were the 4 co-workers since they were all in the lab that day and each one had a motive. So, which one was it? Alex, Nicola, Michael, or James? Let's put 15 seconds on the clock. The thing you have to remember is that Charles was an esteemed chemist. The numbers that he wrote down to help police come from the periodic table of elements. Number 28 is nickel, which gives you Ni. Number 27 is cobalt, abbreviated as Co. And finally, the 57th element is lanthanum, which is La. Put them together and you get the name of Charles's attacker, Nicola. Riddle number 6. Charles wasn't just a genius, he was like something straight out of an action movie, because he managed to cheat death yet again and woke up from his coma after the trial. Eventually, he grew old, retired, and decided to spend the rest of his life in a cozy little cottage outside the city. Charles never left his house. He got his letters from the mailman, his groceries were delivered to him by another guy, and a different man brought him his daily newspaper. One Friday, the mailman came to give Charles his letters and found him dead in his kitchen. He immediately called 911. The investigators could tell from the get-go that this was a murder, so they carefully examined the crime scene. They found a couple bottles of milk, a loaf of bread, some pills, keys, and Tuesday's newspaper on the table. The only people that had contact with Charles were the mailman, the food delivery guy, and the newspaper deliverer. So, they soon became the primary suspects. Do you know who killed poor Charles? Get to thinking, detective! It was the newspaper delivery guy that took Charles's life. Maybe you caught the fact that only Tuesday's newspaper was lying on the table. The newspaper guy didn't bother bringing Wednesday's or Thursday's paper because he knew Charles was dead. And that's because he killed him. Poor Charles. Poor Charles. The guy lived a heck of a life, wouldn't you say? How many of these challenges did you manage to crack? Tell us in the comments section below. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and family to find out how many of these riddles they'll be able to solve. Stay on the bright side of life, and we'll see you soon.
You know, choices are almost always hard to make, especially when you have to choose something. Yeah. But what about choices which your life depends on? Today, I've prepared a thorny challenge for you. You'll be transported to a hallway that consists of several sections. Each section will teleport you to a different place and put a different puzzle before you. What they all have in common is a single rule. You'll need to decide on one way to proceed further. You can make no more than 3 mistakes on item. How long can you last in my lethal maze? Open the first door if you dare, and let's find out. Okay, welcome, my brave adventurer. You find yourself in a dark room with a single torch hanging on the opposite wall. To either side of the torch, there is a door. Behind the door on the left, there's a hungry wolf that will attack and try to eat you when you enter. Behind the one on the right, there's a swamp that will suck you in if you step foot in the wrong place. Which one would you enter? Choose wisely, and remember, everything has a meaning in this place. The safe way to go is the left door, but only if you take the torch with you. Wolves are afraid of fire, and you'll be able to scare off the beast before it attacks you. Now, even if you didn't answer correctly, don't worry yet. You have 2 more tries, and the next place you're transported to is a forest glade. The sun is shining in the sky, and on the edge of the glade you see 2 huts. In the left one lives a witch who will lure you inside and poison you if you so much as knock on her door. In the right one, there's a vampire that will launch himself at you as soon as you step on the front porch of his hut. Which hut is safe then? In order to survive without trouble, you should go to the right hut. It's sunny, remember? Vampires can't take the sun, so if you step on the porch of his house and he throws himself at you, he'll just burn to ashes. When you cross the doorstep of the hut you've chosen, the maze takes you to the next puzzle, and that's the South Pole. You're freezing, and to make matters worse, a powerful snowstorm is approaching. You have to find a shelter. Luckily, there are 2 caves right in front of you. In the left one, there's a hungry polar bear, and the right one is filled with radioactive waste. Which one would you choose to hide in? Your best decision would be to step into the cave on the left. Why? Well, not because your chances to survive the bear are higher, it's just that there are polar bears in the South Pole. Now, bear with me. You've still got places to go and things to do in this labyrinth. Your next location is a barren wasteland. There's literally nothing around you but scorched earth. It must be hot at daytime. Lucky you, it's night at the moment. I know I said there was nothing around, but that's not entirely true. There's a decrepit shed nearby. Inside the shed, there are 2 trap doors in the ceiling. If you open the left one, a huge scorpion will jump right at you. And if you choose the right one, you'll see a giant magnifying glass that will scorch you in no time. Which trap door is safe to open? If you've chosen the one with the magnifying glass, congratulations! You've come yet another step closer to freedom. The glass needs the sun to shine through it to burn things down. Since it's dark outside right now, you can enter without fear. So, are you still here? Have you managed to go this far without wasting all of your attempts? Good for you! Now, the next place you're teleported to is an underwater cave. You have barely enough air in your lungs to keep you from drowning, so you have to find some place to breathe, and fast. To your relief, there are, of course, 2 air pockets nearby. Inside one of them, however, there's a swarm of blood-sucking bats, while in the second one, there's a dangerous-looking shark lurking and waiting to feed on you. Which way is safer? Surprisingly, the air pocket with the shark is the safe one. If I remember correctly, sharks can't breathe outside water, so there's no way it can be inside the pocket. Well, take a good and hearty breather and prepare for the next puzzle. It takes place in a medieval castle. You're in a richly decorated chamber with tapestries on every wall, full knight's armor standing in every corner, and a huge 4-poster bed in the middle. There are 2 doors leading out of the room. Behind one, there are a couple of lions trained to attack intruders on smell. Behind the other, there's a champion that will attack anyone who doesn't have this castle's attributes on them. Just in case you're wondering, you don't. So, how can you escape the room you're stuck in? You can go safely enough through the door with the champion behind it. You only need to wear one of those armors standing in the corners of the room, and he'll let you pass. You're close to the exit from the maze now. Don't give up. Press on. You find yourself in a room full of various small animals. They don't mean you any harm. Among others, you spot a mouse, a frog, a cat, a mongoose, a fox, and a rabbit. As usual, there are 2 doors out of the room. Behind one, there's a venomous snake that hisses at you and threatens to bite as soon as you cross the doorstep. Behind the other, there's a poisonous cloud that will choke you if you breathe it in. Which doorway can you use to go further? Well, take the mongoose with you and open the door to the snake. As you might know, mongooses are natural enemies of snakes, so just wait until it gets rid of the serpent and go. You're now almost free. If you manage to go this far, it'll be a shame not to make it to the exit, don't you think? Don't take any chances. Use your logic and find the way out of the next and last room of the maze. It's not going to be easy, and I'm not going to give you any hints. But you've been doing great so far, and I'm pretty sure you'll take this last step with triumph. So, you're standing in a room with nothing else but a table in front of you. There are 3 items on it: a vial of perfume, a razor, and a length of rope. On the opposite side of the table, there are 3 doors. Behind the first one is a bald person that looks just like you, and they'll strangle you when they see you. Behind the second are blind and hungry hounds that will eat you alive. And behind the third one is an enraged buffalo that stands with its back to you until you cross the doorstep, and when you do, it will rush and trample you. Which door will you choose and why? Think it over carefully. After all, your life and freedom is at stake. Well, if you think about it, unlike the rest of the rooms, all 3 doors in this one lead to freedom. You just need to find a way that best suits you. If you chose the door with a person, you should remember that they look exactly like you except one detail: they're completely bald. So take the razor from the table and shave off your hair. When you open the door, the person will think they're looking at themselves and let you go. By the way, if you already have no hair on your head, you can just skip the razor part altogether. Convenient, huh? If you prefer the door with the blind hounds, take the vial of perfume. Even dogs that are able to see mostly find their bearings by scent. For blind ones, it's the only way. You can either throw the vial in the far corner of the room so that it shatters and confuses the hounds, or spray the perfume all around the room to the same end. The dogs will have no chance to find you. And finally, if you chose the buffalo, take the rope and make a noose on its end. Open the door, and while the beast is still standing with its back to you, throw the noose over its horns. If you're successful, you'll have a tame buffalo and a free way to the exit. Boy, do you love riddles as much as I do? Although I must confess that despite my attachment to them, I wasn't so great at solving them. But I didn't give up and kept practicing. And do you want to find out how good you are at this? Then here you go. And you'll find out your results at the end of the video. Number 1. A forgotten pin. No, not the pointy kind, the number kind. Emma's mother asked the girl to go to the supermarket and gave her a shopping list and a bank card. But in case Emma forgot the PIN of the credit card, her mom also gave her a little clue. When Emma was already at the register, she understood that she had indeed forgotten the PIN. Can you say what number it was if the clue was a sheet of paper with a fly, a cat, a girl, and a snake drawn on it? You have just 10 seconds to figure out the answer. The pin was 6420. Emma just had to count the numbers of legs of each creature. Number 2. A bad liar. Ms. Nelson, an art teacher at school, had to organize an event, and a big concert was a part of it. But the event had to take place the next day, and she still needed to find one more performer. There were several talented students at her school, and she decided to invite them. But Daniel, who played the guitar very well, told his teacher that he had lent his instrument to a friend and wouldn't get it back anytime soon. Sophia, who was an amazing singer, answered the teacher that she had a sore throat and couldn't sing at all. And Luna, who was a professional dancer, claimed that just a few days before, she had sprained her ankle and the doctor had prohibited her to move this leg too much. Ms. Nelson was very upset, but could do nothing to change the situation. But when she saw these 3 students at the concert the next day, she found out that one of them had lied to her. Who was it, and how did she understand it? Luna had lied to her teacher. If she had sprained her ankle, she wouldn't have been able to wear high heels. Number 3. The robbery of the year. James came to visit his friend Ethan. The guys were chilling on the sofa, watching TV, eating pizza, and having some drinks. Suddenly, James' phone called. James had to leave for a while, and soon after departure, Ethan felt unwell and fainted. When James returned, he saw that Ethan was lying on the floor and the apartment was in a mess. Ethan luckily came to his senses before the police arrived. He told the officer that the robbers had stolen all his money and electronics he kept in his safe. The only question the detective asked if Ethan touched anything on the table after James had left. When he heard the negative answer, he immediately arrested James. Can you figure out why? There are ice cubes in the glasses on the table. If they had been the same drinks the friends had been drinking before James left, the ice would have melted long ago. It means that James put something in Ethan's glass to knock him out, took all the money and electronics, and replaced the drinks with fresh ones before the police arrived. Number 4. A great summer vacation. 3 college friends met after a summer break. Lily described how she and her boyfriend had gone to Paris and seen the city from the top of the Eiffel Tower. Dylan told his friends that he had traveled to Africa with his parents. But on their last day, there was a massive volcanic eruption, and it didn't spoil the rest only because they flew home that day. And Ellie said that she had visited her uncle in Texas and learned to ride a horse very well. She even participated in some competitions. Of course, all the stories were great, but one of them was fake. Which one was it? Dylan's story is fake. He couldn't fly home on the day of the eruption, because when something like this happens, all flights get canceled. Number 5. A matchstick equation. This matchstick equation seems correct. 9 minus 3 equals 6. But can you move just one matchstick to get another correct equation? You have 10 seconds to do it. There is not one but two correct answers here. 3 plus 3 equals 6, and 8 minus 3 equals 5. 6. Thief the Sprinter. Detective Jackson Jones was walking along the street when he heard people shouting and saw an elderly lady sitting on the ground and people crowding around. It turned out that some man grabbed the lady's bag, pushed her to the ground, and sprinted away. The detective ran in the direction witnesses showed him, turned the corner, and saw 3 doors. He knocked on the first one, and the apartment owner, Daniel, opened the door. The man told Jones he had just returned from a 5-mile-long run. A man called Jacob opened the second door. He said that he had been playing basketball in the backyard. And behind the third door, there was Mike, a musician. He explained that he had just finished composing a new piece of music. After visiting all these apartments, Detective Jones immediately realized who was the thief. Can you do the same within 10 seconds? The thief is Jacob. He claimed that he was playing basketball, but he was holding a football. Number 7. A mysterious number. Luke had an older brother who was always teasing him by calling him a baby. When Luke finally went to school, he hoped that his brother wouldn't call him little anymore. But when the boy returned home after the very first school day, his brother started again. "Primary school is for babies. Everything you learn is so easy." Then Luke decided to teach his brother a lesson. "Okay, how about you solve a riddle our teacher gave us today?" Luke's brother agreed without hesitation. "If you take away half of this number, you'll get nothing. What is this number?" Even after thinking for a while, Luke's brother didn't manage to solve the riddle. And can you do it in 10 seconds? This number is 8. Take away its top part and you'll get 0. 8. The missing number. Look at this table with numbers, and within 10 seconds, try to guess which number should go to the empty space. But I must give you a hint, it's not 6. This riddle tests your memory skills, and to be honest, it's a bit on the prank side. But if you answer that in the empty space, there should be the letter R, you're absolutely right. Because it's not some mathematic equation, it's a car's manual gear shift, and R is for reverse. 9. Stolen cows. Littlefield was a tiny village where people didn't even get fines for illegal parking. But one day, something terrible happened in this quiet place. Mr. Richardson, a rich farmer, arrived at the police station in tears, saying that 2 of his best cows were missing. There were 3 suspects, and each of them had to answer just a liar, satisfying the second piece of information you have. And here's a bonus for you to thoroughly rack your brain. You're in a dark room with no windows and 2 doors leading out. Behind one of them is a hungry lion that will attack you as soon as it sees you. Behind the other is an alien waiting to conduct experiments on you. Which door would you choose in order to survive and safely go home? I guess you'll need another 10 seconds for that. If you chose the door with an alien behind it, you'll survive. First, because no one said that experiments they're going to conduct are dangerous, and second, because aliens don't exist. Alright, at least there's no proof of that yet anyway. Do you like robots? Well, I'm giving you the unique chance to visit their world with a secret mission. Are you up for it? If you said yes, I've got robot riddles for you, and you have 10 seconds to solve each of them. If you need more time, feel free to pause the video. Let's see if you can solve them all and win. Number 1. Welcome to the world of robots. There's just one law here. To cross the border, you have to figure out what that law is. There are books, but no words. Mirrors, but no reflections. There are doors, but there's neither an entrance nor an exit. There are riddles waiting for you, but no answers. So, can you guess what the robot law is? Time's up. Do you have an answer for me? Everything in robot world must have double letters in its name. Now that you know the law, you're off to the next riddle. 2. There are plenty of robots in robot world, so they have to share rooms with each other. At night, they group in the center of the room and go into sleep mode. It helps them recharge. There are 2 robots in front of another pair of robots. There are 2 robots behind another. And finally, 2 robots are beside 2 other robots. Can you tell how many robots share a room? As crowded as it might sound, there are actually just 4 of them. They sleep in square formations. 3. The robots are back to active mode again. Now there are 20 of them in a room. Remember, I mentioned you're visiting them with a secret mission. It's to take pictures of the secret gadgets they plan to use against humans. Your camera is super small and only 1 robot can detect it. Every robot in the room can see the entire room, and every other robot without turning their head or body. They only move their eyes. Where should you place the camera so that the 1 robot that can recognize the camera won't see it? I give you 10 seconds to find that perfect hiding place. I'm sure you managed to figure it out. You just had to place it on the back of the smart robot's head. 4. Robots don't like to be outsmarted by humans. They figured out what you're up to and put you in a high-tech prison. You won't give up, of course, and you managed to escape from your cell. One of the robots pushed the alarm button, and now there's 1,000 of them chasing you. You run to a table. You see a screwdriver, a water gun, and a glass of water on it. You can use the screwdriver to unscrew the vents and get to the roof. You could use the water gun against the robots, or you could try throwing the glass of water at them. Which of the tools will you pick? Time's up! If you chose to use the screwdriver, you'll drill your way out onto the roof. When you get on it, CCTV cameras will spot you and more robots will come after you. If you take the water gun, it won't help you either, because I didn't say there was water in it. Ho ho! So your best bet is the glass of water, even if it seems too simple. When you splash it on the robots, you'll gain some time to run away. You're this close to escaping, but you get into another room where you notice 2 doors. One of them leads to safety, and the other one to a room that's